Hello, this is Ann Olson for English 340. We had a pretty good discussion yesterday in in the face-to-face part of this class, and on the Revolt of Mother, our reading for week one, and I began with this Grant Wood painting from 1930 because every time I read The Revolt of Mother, I think about this painting and how much uh, this reminds me of 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 the Freeman story. Um, I took some notes here that we talked about. This story was written in 1891, and that was 28 years before the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote. Um, I think of this farming couple in New England and their Puritan Calvinistic religious faith in a providence, a loving God that is intimately involved in their lives on a day-to-day basis based on prayer and God granting or not granting those prayers. There are several mentions of providence in the story where she says men folks are in with Providence on page 30 when she's talking to her daughter Nanny and kind of complaining about men thinking they are in with God and women are lesser and don't know what they're talking about. And then later, when the letter from her brother Hiram comes, and she sees it as an act of providence. She sees it as God literally giving her permission to follow through on the action that she's thought of. This is on page 35. And then later on, after she has moved into the barn, and the minister comes to visit. This is one of my favorite scenes. It's there's You've got to see the humor and uncomfortableness in this scene, uncomfortableness for both of the characters when she says that what's going on is betwixt me and the Lord and Adoniram on page 39. There's also a clear division of labor in this New England culture where place, literally the home, the keeping of the house is the woman's place, and the man's world is a different world. It's the world of business, of of providing a shelter, of dealing with the outside world. This couple has a belief in the marriage contract. Well, at least Sarah Penn does, and she takes her wedding vows very seriously. And I had to look up the wedding vows for the Catholics. Even today, they have the same vows for men and women. You just fill in husband or wife, and it's in parentheses. But in the Anglican Church, which these probably would have been a part of, um, we see a difference. For the men, it is a promise to love and cherish, stop. And for the women, it is a promise to love, cherish, and obey. There's a lot of contract language in a reference to her being like a lawyer. She talks, and I like this idea about the word plain in complain when she says several times that she's not going to complain, but she will talk plain. And there's a difference that she is just a small, just a nuance here that she is well aware of. And Freeman says that Sarah Penn presents her evidence um, like a lawyer. On page 33, Quote, she had pleaded her little cause like a Webster. She had ranged from severity to pathos. But obstinate silence makes eloquence futile with mocking echoes. And then later on, you'll see the delicate diplomacy. The she's like a little legal diplomat, an ambassador between the genders, and with her negotiation with the son, with the hired man, and with Adoniram at the end. She uses subtle little details that are gauged to prevent conflict, to sidestep conflict, to redirect conflict. Um, and one of the most important things between this couple is the one-way communication. We notice Sarah Penn's pattern of repeating every time she tries to communicate with her husband. She has to repeat the same phrase at least 3 times. And Donoram's response is also repeated 3 or more times, especially his famous, I ain't got nothing to say. So I thought maybe I would just go through, this is what we did in class, and I just pointed out some of these. At the very beginning, the dialogue is just wonderful. Father, what is it? What are them men digging over there in the field for? There was a sudden dropping and enlarging of the lower part of the old man's face. I like this. It's like his face literally fell, as if some heavy weight had settled therein. He shut his mouth tight and went on harnessing the great bay mare. He hustled the collar onto her neck with a jerk. Father, the old man slapped the saddle upon the mare's back. Look here, father. I want to know what them men are digging over in the field for, and I'm going to know. He says, I wish you'd go into the house, mother, and tend to your own affairs, the old man said then. He ran his words together, and his speech was almost as inarticulate as a growl. But the woman understood. It was her most native tongue. I ain't going into the house till you tell me what them men are doing over there in the field, said she. Then she stood waiting. And there's a great description. I'm not going to read it here. You can read this for yourself. But it comes back to the repetition. Father, said she. The old man pulled up. What is it? I want to know what them men are digging over there in the field for. That's the 3rd time. They're digging a cellar, I suppose, if you've got to know. A cellar for what? A barn. A barn. You ain't going to build a barn over there where we was going to have a house, Father. Now look at the diplomacy, the way she has um, formed this bit of dialogue. It's literally a question with a question mark at the end, an official question, but the actual sentence is a statement, a demand. You ain't going to. So it's a subtle, the anger is there, but it's overridden by the courtesy of the question of the question. There's such a subtlety of language here, and it's funny sometimes, and it's serious sometimes.